Today we are going to talk about a couple who was denied boarding a Princess cruise ship. This is huge, and we've got a lot to cover in relation to this story and what happened here. Hi there, this is Allison with Let's Go Travel Tips, and today is Friday. It's December 30th of 2022, and this is a really big story today. This is going to be what I'm going to talk to you about today. It is very important if you are going to go on a cruise, and if you are even going to travel to another country, this is a really important thing for us to talk about. I'm going to cover a lot in connection with this. So first of all, what happened is, this story is reported by CBS News. So apparently a couple went to board a Princess cruise ship. As they prepared for their cruise, the wife noticed that her passport was going to expire partway into the cruise. So she called up Princess and said, "Do I need a passport?" And she alleges that they said no. So off she goes to the cruise port with no passport. She gets there, and of course they are denied boarding because she doesn't have a passport. In this story reported by CBS News, it does not say which princess ship it was or where they are sailing to. But it does say that it was for a 10-day cruise and that they had spent like $8,500 on the cruise. So I am wondering if it was for, and they mentioned that it was going to go to Central and South America through the course of the information presented. So I'm thinking it was probably a Panama Canal cruise. But that is neither here nor there. But I wanted to let you know what was going on with this couple. So anyway, so they are denied boarding. They call Princess, and Princess isn't going to pay it back. When you fall down on what your responsibility is and you arrive at the port without the documentation that you need, they're not going to reimburse you for your expenses. You have lost that at that point. So they were not happy with this. So they called up CBS News, hoping, I'm sure, to get enough press that Princess would cave and say, okay, we'll pay you back. Well, a couple of things, and the reason that I put on my thumbnail, shame on you, CBS News, is because they did a very shoddy job of reporting. They start off by saying dozens of people called CBS for reporter Gabby Arzola saying something needs to be done. And so then they just cite two people in the story. So the bottom line is these people they're just blaming Princess, saying you didn't let us know that we needed to have a passport. Princess did respond, and they said that passengers need to take responsibility for their mistakes. On the Princess website, it clearly states that a valid U.S. passport is required on this itinerary. They go on to point out that, like normally on closed loop voyages, if you're like a closed loop voyage is one that leaves from and returns to the same port in the United States. On some of those, depending on where they are going to visit, you can get away with having a certified copy of your birth certificate. That means that you don't just make a copy of it. You need to have an original birth certificate and your government issued ID. So here in the US, that's a valid driver's license. Over the last year or so, they've made a really big deal about making sure that you have an enhanced driver's license, which the states have done to be more secure. So you need that on those sailings. That's what they require if you're going to Alaska, if you're going to Mexico. If you are going out of the United States and you are not going to Mexico or only to Canada, then you're going to have your passport if you're going to go on those Caribbean cruises. If you're going to go to South America, all of these other things, you need to have a passport. And I looked, and that is very clearly stated on the Princess website. And every time that you are going to go on a cruise and you log in to your cruise personalizer, especially the first time, a message comes up and tells you what is required. And then also in the travel area, I looked at it right before I did this video on our cruise for our next Princess cruise. We need to get another one scheduled for earlier in 2023, but our next one is to Norway. And it says clearly that we need a passport. And so Princess is correct in the statement they released. They are very clear about what documentation you use. Also, when you go through the process on the Princess app that they have on the phone, so that you can, put all your documents in and everything that you need to do so that you are ready for embarkation, it is very clearly stated there that you need a passport. You have to upload your passport, what is required, and it also says that they really ask that your passport does not expire for 6 months. That's That's what all of the cruise lines, actually, I went through and looked. They don't want a passport. You can't have one that's going to expire while you're out of the country, because then you can't get back in. Another point that I would also like to make is, not only does Princess let you know about this, they can't let you get on the ship if you do not have a valid passport on voyages that they are required for, because then they have a problem and you have a problem when it comes to get back into the United States, because they won't just let you in. You'll have to go through a lot of hassle in order to get in, and Princess would be in trouble for taking you around without that passport. So I wanted to talk to you about this. And so this is what happened to these people. They're not happy with it, but that's the way it is. I was just reading through the requirements that happened last night again. We've got some people that I am booking cruises for who are traveling to Alaska, and I wanted to make sure that I understood everything about that. And it is very clear what is required for the voyage that you're going to sail on. I also want to talk to you about these closed loop voyages that go to Canada and go to Mexico, because there's some things that I want you to think about when you decide what kind of documentation you want to take with you. All right. So as I just said, when Princess tells you what documentation, and even for an Alaska cruise, they'll say that, if you're 16 years or older, you can have that certified birth certificate and your government issued ID. They've got a link so that you can look at all the different kinds of documentation and everything that goes with that. But they always say that a passport is preferred. And let me tell you why. So if you decide that you are going to go, let's use Alaska as the example, the same thing would apply in Mexico. So say you decide that you're going to go on this cruise to Alaska. You are only going to just stop in Canada, but and I would also add, let me tell you this, there are rules to do with that with cruise lines and allowances made that are not made for travelers who would like fly in. Okay, and that's true in other places as well. But that's another story that I'm going to talk to you about with visas a different day. But you decide you're going to go to Alaska, you're just stopping off in Canada, and you can have that certified birth certificate and your driver's license, so off you go. Well, what if something unexpected happens? Whether you are injured somewhere, like if you're on the ship and they have to medically evacuate you and the closest hospital is in Canada, now you're in Canada. You are no longer on a cruise ship. You have to receive medical treatment there, and you don't have a passport. So now that launches a whole process that has to happen in order for you to get the identification, to meet the requirements to fly back from Canada back to the United States, or even to drive back if you want to do that. So it is really important to think of things that could happen. You could be in like Victoria and something could happen to you, and then you're no longer on the cruise ship and you've got to receive medical attention or whatever, and then you don't have your passport. So kind of think about these things. And I know it's an outlier. I know it's really unusual for things like that to happen, but they do happen. And so kind of keep things like that in mind. I honestly think, and I know this is going to sound kind of maybe a little bit extreme, but I kind of compare traveling without your passport when you are leaving, going somewhere out of the United States. I compare that with traveling without travel insurance, because there is a lot more that goes into it. When you just look at it at face value, when you look at not having your insurance, you're like, oh, you know what? I can lose that much money, how much the cruise costs. It's no big deal. I can cover that, no big deal. But what if something unexpected happens and you have to be airlifted off the ship or taken to shore, by the ship, even if you don't have to pay for that medical evacuation, and now you're somewhere and you're receiving a bunch of medical treatment and you aren't covered on it. So medical insurance covers lots of things, but medical insurance does not cover everything that is associated with getting you off the ship. It's not going to cover your medical evacuation, and those everybody says starts at least $50,000. And so just kind of keep all of these things in mind. I know I do. I am someone, I always get insurance because I worry about things, but I have heard from people that have had to use that insurance, and it was absolutely wonderful. And so we'll talk about insurance another day. But I just wanted you to know that when you look at not getting insurance, kind of the same way as not getting a passport, you're hoping that everything goes smoothly and that nothing unexpected happens. And it would be really nice if nothing unexpected ever happens in life. And so just be aware that if you don't keep up your end of the bargain, which is you need to be responsible, you need to know what is required. I know that Princess is struggling with their customer service, but you know what? Lots of other ones are. I have been on the phone with people from Celebrity that have struggled. I've been on the phone with people from Holland America that didn't know the right answer either. And so then I know what's on their website, and I know to call back and get somebody else and get them to do what I want, or to track down the answer in a different way. But it is really important that you do your part. That doesn't change what your responsibility is. And so make sure that you do your part. And like I said, I'm going to talk to you about visa soon. That is another thing that is really important for you to do your part. And visa requirements are going to change in 2024 towards the end of the year. So we're going to have to keep a close eye on that, because that is going to impact those of us that want to cruise in Europe or a lot of other places. So I will keep you up to date on that, though, so you can stick with me. I am really looking forward to hearing from all of you in the comments about this story, about everything that goes with it, and any experiences that you have to share that would be valuable for the rest of us. If you haven't subscribed yet, I would love it if you would please subscribe. We are this close to 13,000 subscribers, and in the new year, I'm going to talk to you about our goals for 2023. And so I'd love to have you with us. If you appreciate these updates, please give this video a thumbs up. I'll be talking to you all again really soon. You all take really good care. God bless you. Love you. Bye-bye.